gotta go to this other one. Go to my, please let it be in my notes. Just hold on for 1 second, Sabor. I'm just trying to get something. Here it is, bang. Ready, Sabor. Bismillah. Inna alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillah fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu wa barakatuhu alayhi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih. ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله تبارك وتعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As that which is of pertaining to lectures, as lectures is really not my thing, but do from time to time is no problem. That which is something that's straight and short to the point, something that's concise, which everyone can benefit from. And inshallah, in these brief minutes, we'll try to take time out in order to elaborate on an affair which some of the Muslims are ignorant of in regards to if this issue is to come up. A lot of people don't know the answer in order to nullify or to refute this claim in which some of the Muslims have been affected by, but the kuffar use it as ammo in order to speak ill about Islam. And they use it in order to defame Islam and mock Islam and say that Islam is a religion of people being savages or conducting themselves like animals or worse. From those type of ambiguities in which the kuffar that they propagate and they also circulate amongst the people in order to take the people away from accepting Islam is the ambiguity that I discussed with the brothers in Washington, D.C. That ambiguity is pertaining to that you'll find that some of the people say that the Prophet ﷺ, and I do not like to say this statement, but they claim that he was, as they say, that he used to practice that which is of what you guys know as they say, fondling or playing with little children, which is known as what? Pedophilia. So a lot of people would come, and I've heard this ambiguity from a couple of people, as it has been brought up to me maybe a couple of months ago. Someone came to me and asked the question. Matter of fact, came up to me and said to me, and he asked me the question. In his order to get enlightened, a brother told him in brief the answer, and I taught the brothers in brief in Washington, D.C. the answer. I gave them the summarized version of it. But there's a detailed version. Number one, of course we know that ambiguity. We know the Prophet Allah has came in order to say, or Allah has established that He will protect His religion for anyone that tries to come and defame it or mock it or to come to some type of ambiguity in order to confuse the people, to take them away from it. No matter what type of falsehood the people come with, you will always find there is something in the Kitab or there's clarification in the Kitab and the Sunnah to nullify that ambiguity and to destroy it and to nullify it from its root until nothing is left except the haqq. فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ الضَّلَالِ فَأَنَّا تُصْرَفُونَ. And nothing remains after that which is of the haqq except misguidance. For that ambiguity of that which is pertaining to the Prophet ﷺ, what the people accuse him of, they say pedophilia. And in Britain, I remember I was saying Abu Khadija because he helped me do the majority of the research. Hafidhullah wa a couple of years ago. For that which is pertaining to this study, or this refutation, if you want to call it, because it is a refutation. For number one is, we know that the Prophet ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about him, إِنَّا كَفَيْنَا كَالْمُسْتَهْزِئِينَ. Verily we have sufficed you for those who mock at you. We will suffice for those who mock at you, and those who will make ill or speak ill of you. So whether or not that which is of clarification comes, which is present in the Kitab and Sunnah, it will either be known by those who are the Hurras al-Ard, from those who are the guardians or the protectors of religion in the earth, who are the ulama, as they are the one that comes with the clarification, the bayan, in order to establish the truth upon the people, with the type of ambiguities they come with. Allah Ta'ala sends His soldiers, who are the scholars, in order to clarify that which is of the truth and nullify falsehood. And even all those who try to traverse upon their path from the ulama, who are likewise the talabat al-ilm and the du'at al-haq, the cause of the truth, and likewise the students of knowledge, who put forth their utmost effort in clarifying the truth. For that which we say, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, for those who are listening, we said that which is the ambiguity of what they come with. And like I said, these brief minutes will talk about refuting this notion. So number one, we want to say now, firstly, we cannot look at the issue from a Eurocentric or Western-orientated point of view. Because after I finish, inshallah, you're going to say, subhanAllah, wow, look how the haqq is just, it devastates batil. Watch. As soon as we finish after that, you're going to be like, whoa. So you cannot look at it for a Western-orientated point of view. Modern Western liberalism is no more than 100 years old. Right, everyone? To do so would be to say most civilizations are inferior, which is the peak and decadence of arrogance. You mean it reached its peak? To say everybody's civilized in America, but everybody else is all inferior, pathetic, and disgusting, and the people that lived before us in the past also likewise are all people who are disgusting and living in inferiority, and people who were not sophisticated and up to date. Rather, the people of the past lived longer and were more healthier than people these days. So if you want to really get into the details of it. But anyway, to say that the civilizations are inferior, which is the peak of arrogance. European history itself shows that there have been wide variations in the age of consent. Everybody listen with me. You got to write this down. It's just a refutation, but if you want to, you can. Traditionally, across the globe, the age of consent for sexual union was a matter for the family to decide, or a tribal custom. In most cases, this coincided with signs of puberty. Everybody with me? Menstruation for a woman, or pubic hair for a man. So for a woman, that could have been as young as 9 or 10. You understand, everyone? Just so far. Before we get into the details, we're not telling anyone to go out and break the law of the land. Nobody's saying that. But we're trying to establish the haqq. That's all. But to go out there now and say, go get married to 8-year-old little girls, we're not saying that. But we're trying to say, as we know the ulama, such as Sheikh Ahmed Najmi and other than them, they said if that which is a practice is going to cause more fitna upon you, don't do it. If it's going to cause you to get in trouble with the law, and it will allow you to be put in jail and fall into that which is of problems with the law of the land, don't do it. So we want to establish that point. If the FBI is listening, we're not calling the people to go out there and what? Do this. You understand? It's more than likely they are listening. But we're trying to establish the truth and the type of the actual ambiguity that they say throughout Islam. We're going to destroy it. That's what we're coming in. That's the reason. That's the point we're trying to establish. But anyway, it says a clear physical sign in a woman that she's ready for sexual relations is that she's what? She starts menstruation, which proves that she can what now? Bear children. Now we're going to go back to the non-Muslims from the past. In the 12th century, Gratian, the influential founder of canon law in medieval Europe, accepted age of puberty for marriage to be between 12 and 14, but acknowledged consent to be meaningful if the children were older than 7. There were authorities that said that consent could take place earlier. Marriage would then be valid as long as neither of the two parties annulled the marital agreement before reaching puberty, or if they had already consummated the marriage. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, everyone. He said marriage would be valid as long as the two parties annulled the marital agreement before reaching puberty, or if they had already consummated the marriage. It should be noted that judges honor marriages based on mutual consent at ages younger than 7. I'll say it one more time because it looked like everybody got a little distracted. Let's talk about the non-Muslims now. It says, it should be noted that judges honor marriages based on mutual consent at ages younger than 7. That's what the kuffar. In spite of what Gratian has said, they are recorded marriages of 2 and 3 years old. Look at that. 500 years after the Prophet ﷺ came, which proves marriage was common throughout Europe to children younger than Aisha. You understand? Understand, everyone? That's what the kuffar. The American colonies followed the English tradition. And the law was more of a guide. For example, Mary Hathaway in Virginia, 1689, was only 9 years old when she was married to Sir Edward Coke. 9 years old. Sir Edward Coke in England in the 17th century made it clear that marriages of girls under 12 was normal. And the age at which a girl who was a wife was eligible for a dower from her husband's estate was 9, even though her husband be only 4 years old. Well, I did this. That's just building you up till we get to the bow. That's what you do. Even Sheikh Rabi's refutation, you see how he just builds you up and cut the neck off. That's what he does. A small number of Italian and German states introduced the age of consent in the 16th century, setting it at 12 years. Towards the end of the 18th century, other European countries also began to enact age of consent laws. Listen to this. The first French constitution established an age of consent of 11 years in 1791, which was raised to 13 in 1863. Portugal, Spain, Denmark, and Swiss cantons initially set the age of consent at 10 to 12 years and then raised it to be 13 and 16 years in the second half of the 19th century. Historically, the English common law set the age of consent to range from 10 to 12. So you got the Europeans, Grecians, and also the French were doing it. So what does the West now have to say about that? Is that now institutional pedophilia? Pedophilia is endorsed by national governments? Or was it really just the norm? It was something that everybody was doing. It was something that was considered normal and accepted in the society. Or is it really just a norm that a woman who reached puberty and could bear children would marry? Of course, we're not saying to anyone go out and break the law, of course. No, never. But nevertheless, don't belittle our prophet for doing that which most societies held to be normal. Understand, everyone? In the United States, by the 1880s, most states set the age of consent. Now we're going to the United States. By the 1880s, most states set the age of consent at 10 to 12. So now we're talking about America. Only at age of 10 to 12. And in one state, which is not too far from us, Delaware, the age of consent was only 7. A New York Times article states that it was still aged at 7 in Delaware in 1895. 7 years old. Where? USA. 1,200 years after the Prophet ﷺ married Aisha radiallahu anha at the age of 7. Today in Angola, age of consent is 12. Are they now a nation of pedophilias? There's no age of consent in Central African Republic. There isn't none. But the same sexual activity is illegal. The same sexual activity is illegal. The age of consent in the Comoros is 13. The age of consent in Democratic Republic of the Congo is 14 for females and 18 for males. So this shows there's no fixed rule. And all these attacks against Islam are intended to demonize our religion and to make the West look morally superior. But do they really want to go into that? The age of consent in France is 15. So we're arguing with facts. We're not just giving emotional, motivational speech. Let me show you. Oh, هذه دعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمد الوصية والفضيلة وآتي مقام محمود طيب. So the age of consent in France is 15. Since 2001, the age of consent in Albania is 14 years old. So we're arguing facts. We're not using emotions to, yo, you stupid idiots and fools. No, let's just stick to the facts. That's it. When you argue with an individual, you stick to the facts. That's it. You gotta get emotional, call each other's names, nothing like that. Just stick to the facts. And that's it. Because the facts won't lie. You stick with your facts and that's it. As long as, since 2001, the age of consent in Albania is 14. Regardless of gender and sexual orientation. As long as she has reached the age of puberty. French in 1942. The age of consent for homosexual acts was set at 21. While that for heterosexual acts was still 13. 13. The Netherlands in 2012. Consensual sexual relations between adolescents who are close in age are not punished. Sexual acts between persons who have reached the age of 12 years old are widely tolerated by the courts and the Dutch Public Prosecution Service. Excuse me. Alhamdulillah. The age of 12 years old widely tolerated by the Dutch Public Prosecution Service. If the difference in age between two partners is not too great, I'll repeat it again. The Netherlands in 2012, consensual sexual relations between adolescents who are close in age are not punished. It's in the Netherlands, 2012. Sexual acts between persons who have reached the age of 12 years old are widely tolerated by the courts and the Dutch Public Prosecution Service. If the difference in age between the two parties is not too great, the latter is determined at the discretion of the court, though usually 4 years is deemed acceptable. 12 years old. Shows their hypocrisy when they attacked Islam. When they attack Islam, that shows their hypocrisy. that they must first pass the ruling over their own selves and their own forefathers and their grandfathers and their great-great-grandfathers and their ancestors. All of them were what? Pedophilia. The whole nations. And to top it all off, this is to top everything off, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ was accused of a lot of things. He's accused of being a magician, liar, poet, you name it. The kuffar and the enemies of Islam that were surrounding him were a great number. Persia, from that Rome, from that was the Christians, the Jews, the polytheists. All of them were what? During his time? All of them used what they could use in order to attack and defame the Prophet ﷺ. They couldn't defame him in his lineage. It was the perfect, most greatest of lineages, if not the greatest. The Prophet ﷺ came with that which is of anything you can think of, they couldn't use it. Everything was Allah to protect any aspect for them to accuse him of not being a prophet. They couldn't take it. They couldn't what? They couldn't find anything. They never accused, of course, you know, he used to be truthful before the wahi came. He was known to be a trustworthy person. Everybody in the nation knew what type of character he was. Everything was there and set accurately to know that this man, what he's coming with, is something that is the truth. Right, everyone? Tayyib. Out of all the things they accused him of during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, everything you can think of, they never used this to say he was a what? Involved in pedophilia. Why? Why, everyone? Because everyone was doing it. It was something acceptable in the society at the time. Everybody was doing it. The Christians, the Jews, the polytheists, the Romans, the Persians, the fire worshippers, you name it. All around the world. It was something that was, everybody knew the society was what? That's something normal. Everybody was doing it. It was something that was acceptable at the society. That's why they never used it against them in the first place. You understand, everyone? It was something known, acceptable to society at the time. Everybody was known and they was doing it. That's the reason why they never used this against them. Because it wasn't an argument. You can't use it as an argument because everybody's doing it. And it was known that of a great man, of great status, of course, of that which is a pure man, of that which is a great man, great honor, it was something honorable to say, you take my daughter in marriage at this age and marry his daughter off to you was something that was honorable, to show honor to that individual. And this was a man of great status and stature, and this was a great man of that which is a purity and uprightness. It was something honorable. It was to show honor. That I'm going to marry my daughter to this man. And he's going to be my virgin, my girl that's going to be a virgin, has never been touched. Marry him off to this pure man. Now these days, at times, you really want to go into that. You understand, everyone? Now, but that, like we said, so basically just to come up and sum up everything, when a person comes up to you and say this, they say to you, well, your Prophet ﷺ married 9 years old, it's pedophilia. You say back to them, okay, if that's pedophilia, why is it that none of the pagans use this as an argument? For almost 1,000 years up until modern day liberalism, they use that as an argument. But why is it their ancestors who came before them never used that as an argument? For almost 1,000 years now, 1,400 years, they use it as an argument after. Why? I don't know why. But if you go back to history, those who were surrounding him from the Christians, the Jews, the pagans, the polytheists, everyone, you name it, never used that as an argument against him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? The reason why is because everyone knew it was acceptable in this society. Because everyone was doing it. You understand, everyone? So you can't use that as an argument. Don't use that as an argument now when modern day liberalism come, and now they want to use it as an argument. And if modern day liberalism really wants to get into an argument of what's considered purity, then we can get into those too, and the facts of that also. And wondering why we got AIDS now, gonorrhea, syphilis, you name it. You understand, everyone? So for that reason, we say, just to sum up everything, That is the type of ambiguity they usually bring in order to confuse the Muslims, to think that our Prophet ﷺ had fell into this despicable act that the kuffar tried to accuse him of, and that he ﷺ was far away from that. Totally far away from that. And there's no way they use that argument due to the fact, like I said, that would necessitate you use that, or that we say that all of your ancestors were all practicing pedophilia, and that all the nations around him were all inferior. And that is that height and the decadence of arrogance. To say that everyone in the whole world was all disgusting, filthy creatures. And they wouldn't dare say that out of their mouths. You understand, everyone? So I hope they made that clear. So that was the sum up and the gist of that which I wanted to talk about today. And inshallah, that brought some benefits. I don't like to do long lectures. Classes maybe, but not lectures. Classes, not lectures. Right, inshallah, we'll stop here. We'll suffice by that. What time you guys usually call the Imam? By this time? Or right now? Oh. Like 9:50? 9:50. Okay, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions? Any questions? Hold on.
So this term pedophilia, which they describing it in nowadays, is really like an innovative matter to the point to how they describe it and try to label it.
No, what they're saying is that pedophilia to them is that which is done with a child or underage child, of that which is some type of sexual practice. And no matter where you're touching a child or molesting a child, all that they consider to be what? Pedophilia. So they accused the Prophet ﷺ of that. And we said that's battle due to the fact, like you said, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was something that everyone was doing in this society. Everyone. Every single person. It was something that was the norm in society. Not as far as zina. Not here in America, where they perceive it to be fornication, where man's doing it out of a marriage. We're talking about that which is of a marriage consent, and also that which is a marriage itself. The marriage consent between the adults and the parents are involved. And likewise, where there's a marriage that takes place. We're not talking about here in America where there's people just touching children and just doing what they want and just acting like savages and just doing things. They have no boundaries. We're not talking about that. That's here in America what they consider pedophilia. Even a marriage, if it's none, there is no consent amongst the adults, and a man marries a woman under a certain age. What they set here in this country, they also consider that pedophilia. So it could be out of zina or out of marriage with them.
What's the legal age now here? Consent for marriage.
I think it's different according to the laws of the states and stuff like that. Every state has different laws as far as the consent. Consent laws is different. So here in 16, here in Maryland, 16.
Yeah, 16.
16. Okay, that's for consent amongst the parents and the adults. Mm-hmm. Anything else? So like we said, everyone, if someone comes with you with this ambiguity, because I've heard this even when I was in high school, when I first became Muslim, there was a shaitan that came to me from one of the students when I was going to Roman Catholic, and I just became Muslim. I was going to a Catholic high school. We're not going to be like, I can't even go say my journey to Islam. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that which is pertaining to, and when I was in high school, a shaitan came to me. He said, yeah, but your prophet, he used to touch little kids. This is when I first became Muslim. I didn't have the answer. So I'm like, what do I say? This was back in 1995, 1994. So I said, so I went to some people and talked to them. They said, no. What happened is, to summarize it up, is, like we said, during the society at the time, he said, we as Muslims have the belief that that's still correct. But now, because of modern-day liberalism and the Western ideologies have twisted the ways of thinking of people, he said, but still, if you look at the civilizations at the time all around the world, everyone was doing it. The Christians, the Jews, the pagans, the fire worshippers, everyone. That's why the kuffar, or the enemies of Islam, never used that against the Prophet ﷺ, because they knew there was nothing wrong with it. It was something that was acceptable in the society. To marry a woman that was a virgin, to marry a man of tremendous status, is something, a man who was upright, was something that was honorable. Something that was deemed to be considered honorable. So that's what we say, that during that time, everyone was doing it. None of the kuffar used that as a refutation or any way to, to defame Islam or defame the Prophet ﷺ. It never came until 1,400 years later. That's when they started to use it against them. When modern day liberalism was put forth and it was practiced, then they tried to use that as something against them. But it would necessitate that all their forefathers and their grandfathers and their ancestors and everyone that came before them and all of the civilizations around them were all inferior, and all of them were disgusting, pathetic savages practicing pedophilia. They wouldn't dare say that out of their mouth due to the fact they know that would be the height of arrogance to say something like that. Anything else? So that's what you would say to a person if they come with that ambiguity. That's what you say to them and to sum it up. If a shaitan comes to you like that and says that to you, this is what you say. Because that's what we have to do to combat batil. You need the ilm. If you don't have the ilm, then you're subjected to every type of nonsense out here. Anything else, brothers? We've got 2 more minutes out there, right? Anything else? So Abdur Hakim.
So like when you use the evidence to refute people, can you cite people who they deem as important in history as well who did similar things?
Absolutely. If you want to bring forth their ancestors, yes, of course. That's just what I did. I brought every type of person, even from the latest. Well, excuse me, Abu Khadija, Hafidullah, he, like I said, he is the one that sent me a lot of the information, the majority of it. He used that in that refutation of information. He gave it to me. To use that was of the late kuffar who were setting the laws of the lands. Coming at the leaders who were setting the laws. And saying that to use that against them to show that, claim, if this is what you're accusing of, then you're going to, bang, accuse your own grandfather, your grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, this, and this civilization, and even still today, there's still not a set age for it. So now you want to say, oh, everybody in that country is inferior, everybody's disgusting, filthy creature. You understand? That's what you use against them. You argue with them with facts. You always come with a person, argue with them with facts. That's what you start off with. Don't ever start going for the you fool until you have demolished him with the ilm first. Then when you demolish with the ilm, then you say he's an idiot. You understand? Then you can say that. You know, he's ahmaq. Yeah. Stay away from him, he's ahmaq. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But at first, you what? Demolish him with the knowledge. You set with the facts, the ilm. Demolish him with the ilm. And make your qasd, your intention is to defend the truth. And you want the people to be guided, not fooled by that nonsense. And that's how you tear a person down, or that which is of a person that's trying to propagate batil. You tear him down with the ilm. Just leave off the confrontational emotions and all that. Listen, let's just stick to the facts. That's it. All the argument and scholar howling, screaming, leave that off. I'm not impressed by none of that. Just stick to the facts. And that's it. And if I'm wrong, that's it. If I'm wrong, I make tawbah, and that's it. But we know that the Kitab and the Sunnah, alhamdulillah, has been protected. So we don't have nothing to fear as far as that which is of with the enemies of Islam come forth with batil. We don't have nothing to fear because the religion is protected and it doesn't contradict itself at all in any aspect. Anything else, anyone? طيب, we'll stop here. هذا صلى الله عليه وسلم بارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.